So picture this, a lab where researchers are actually watching Alzheimer's play out in real time using living human brain tissue. It's pretty quiet, but what's happening could be, well, a turning point.
Right. And just to set the stage, it's May 8th, 2025. We're diving into a major update in Alzheimer's research today. Scientists have managed to recreate the very early stages of Alzheimer's, not just in animals, but in real human brain tissue. That's quite new. But why is that so significant?
Well, for years, most of what we knew came from animal models, mainly mice that researchers engineered to have Alzheimer's-like symptoms. But mice aren't people. So even when drugs seemed promising in mice, they often failed once tested in humans. Using this living human tissue, researchers can now watch the disease unfold minute by minute in actual human cells.
And just to clarify, the tissue they use comes from patients already having brain surgery for unrelated reasons, right? So it's not like they're taking tissue just for the sake of research.
Exactly, yes. All the tissue is collected during necessary neurosurgical procedures and only with full patient consent. That part is really important, not just for ethics, but for practical reasons too. After that, researchers expose the tissue to the toxic proteins linked to Alzheimer's, beta amyloid and such, and then watch how these proteins disrupt the connections between neurons.
So what does this approach let them see that we couldn't before?
They're able to spot the very first signs of disease, basically as soon as those toxic proteins start messing with the brain cells. That's something we couldn't get from animal studies or even from post-mortem human tissue. And, it means they can try out drugs in an environment that's as close as possible to the real human brain, which could mean, maybe, more accurate drug screening.
That's the hope. If these models can predict which drugs actually work in humans, then maybe, just maybe, fewer drugs will fail in clinical trials. And with over 55 million people worldwide living with Alzheimer's, that would make a real difference.
But there are limits. The amount of human brain tissue available is pretty small, and it comes mostly from a specific group of patients. So, it doesn't cover everyone. Plus, keeping the tissue alive outside the body is complicated. It takes specialized labs and skilled teams. And honestly, the costs add up.
And then the ethics. Even with patient consent, there are layers of oversight, review boards, strict protocols. But it does mean less reliance on animal models, and the results are more relevant to actual human disease.
Exactly. And actually, this approach could go beyond Alzheimer's. There's potential for studying other brain diseases, like Parkinson's, Huntington's, ALS. Since all these disorders involve toxic proteins and neuron loss, this technique might help us uncover better treatments for a whole range of conditions.
That's interesting. Parkinson's, for example, also has protein buildup, but it's alpha-synuclein instead of beta amyloid, right? If this model works there too, it could open up new ways to test drugs or even find early warning signs.
So when we look at the growing crisis of Alzheimer's, this isn't just a technical breakthrough. It might bring us closer to earlier diagnosis, better treatments, and, well, maybe even a cure down the road. That's why it could matter on a global scale.
People are living longer now, and more families are impacted by Alzheimer's than ever. If we can move from just seeing the results of the disease to actually understanding how it starts, how much could that change the outlook?
Today, for the first time, scientists watched Alzheimer's develop in living human brain tissue. Tomorrow, well, it's hard to say just yet, but the possibilities are real. For patients, families, healthcare systems, there's reason to be hopeful. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for listening. We touched on the new brain tissue models, why they're a step up from animal studies, the ethical questions, and what this might mean for Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll talk again soon.